Head of Xbox Phil Spencer made some waves today when he talked about the Activision Blizzard deal, more acquisitions coming in the future, and the big one, less exclusives coming our way. What does he mean? Well, let's talk about it, shall we? What is going on, everybody? This is Randall419, the man with the million, back again with another video. I hope everybody is having a great day. If you guys can do me a huge favor, please hit that like button, subscribe if you're new, and share this out on social media. I'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. I really do enjoy reading the interviews that Phil Spencer normally gives to the media, and quite frankly, we haven't got enough of them this year. Normally, Phil is very chatty, does a lot of interviews with many different outlets throughout the course of the year, but for whatever reason, 2022, Phil's been mostly silent since the Activision Blizzard deal. And out of nowhere today, he gave an interview with Bloomberg talking about the Activision Blizzard deal and how it's progressing, if they're still looking to make more acquisitions and where they might be looking in the future. You always get a good sense about how Phil views the industry and Xbox's place within it. And when you read all these interviews, you can sort of see the breadcrumb trail that Phil leaves behind as he talks about how he views Xbox as a platform moving forward. But the headline that everybody's talking about today, although I'm not going to use it for my title, is his remarks about there being less exclusives in the future. So as always, you have people debating on what Phil actually meant. Does he mean that Xbox is going to have less exclusives in the future because they're going to be putting all their games on PlayStation and Switch? Is he talking about the industry in general as everybody moves towards PC? Or is he talking about something else? There's a lot here we need to talk about, but we're going to start at the beginning. Microsoft Corp's Phil Spencer, Chief Executive Officer of Gaming, said he's encouraged by the progress made in discussions with regulators examining the software giant's almost $70 billion acquisition of Activision Blizzard. Phil says, quote, "I feel good about the progress that we've been making, but I go into the process supportive of people who maybe aren't as close to the gaming industry asking good hard questions about what is our intent, what does this mean, if you play it out over 5 years, is this constricting a market, is it growing a market? I've never done a $70 billion deal, so I don't know what my confidence means. I will say the discussions we've been having seem positive." If you recall, when Microsoft made the historic announcement that they entered into an agreement to acquire Activision Blizzard, there were a lot of people that said, I don't know if this deal is actually going to go through. It smells like a monopoly, even though there's really no case you could make for it being a monopoly. But even still, the governments across the world have to approve this deal, and the price tag on it was insane, and it made people second guess whether or not this deal would actually go through. And when Microsoft said, hey, we're going to buy your stock for $95 a share, and the stock price for Activision Blizzard didn't rise to meet that, a lot of pundits out there said, hey, Wall Street expects this deal not to go through. But it definitely seems as time moves on that the deal's probably going to go through. I personally think sometime next year. A lot of other people think sometime later this year. Either way, we have seen some positive things happen. Saudi Arabia just approved the deal, but we still need United States, United Kingdom, EU, so this process is going to go on for a little bit longer. The Bloomberg article goes on to talk about the allegations with Bobby Kotick and also the union stuff, but outside of that, it does seem like the Activision Blizzard deal is progressing nicely. There's really not much more to say about it. It's definitely been an interesting month regarding the deal because a couple weeks ago, we had the Brazilian Commission where Sony talked about, hey, Call of Duty is so important to us and Game Pass is going to reach that tipping point. They're very concerned about Microsoft owning Call of Duty and how Game Pass might affect them in the future, not so much the industry. And then Microsoft responded to Sony, basically shot down all their arguments, saying that you're just worried about the increased competition, not how it'll affect the industry. You're just scared of what Xbox Game Pass potentially could do to your business strategy. And we certainly had a lot of fun talking about that. Now, there are a lot of Xbox fans a little bit worried that maybe purchasing Activision Blizzard will put a stop to Xbox's aggressive acquisitions in the future, and it definitely seems like that is not going to be the case. We had the CEO of Microsoft talk recently about how they're going to continue to invest, and Phil Spencer was asked this directly during this interview, and he pretty much said the same thing. While Microsoft is focused on completing the Activision acquisition, Spencer said he remains on the hunt for more content, whether by investing in new games, partnerships, or further deals. Xbox wants to add content and creators in the regions of the globe where it is less strong. Quote, "I'm always thinking about things that add to our capability. Even though we've worked on our geographic expansion, I'd still say we have too many of our creators in places that are our traditional markets." In the very beginning of the video, I mentioned the breadcrumbs that Phil will sometimes sprinkle into his interviews, and this is one of those breadcrumb trails. Sure, Xbox, Phil Spencer, Satya have talked about their desire to acquire more, to invest more into Xbox, so we know they're going to do that. But now we get a sense about maybe where they might be looking. The article talks about how Xbox wants to invest in new games, partnerships, and further deals. I mean, we know they're doing Game Pass deals all the time. Lies of P, a lot of people thought was the game of the show at Gamescom. And it got that Game Pass announcement. Plague's Tale coming to Game Pass. All the games that are coming next year to Game Pass. Those are some of those deals and partnerships that they're talking about here. And of course, new studio acquisitions. Even though Microsoft has very much been keen to focus on the publishers as of late, like Bethesda and Activision Blizzard, they do have Xbox Global Publishing, where they're working with teams like Avalanche on Contraband and IO Interactive on Project Dragon. Whether or not those lead to acquisitions is still to be determined, but Xbox is always out there looking to partner up with people to make their games. But the thing here I want to focus on is how they want to add content and creators in the regions where Xbox isn't as popular. You know, Phil talked about how they've worked on their geographic expansion and that he thinks they still have too many of their creators in places that are their traditional markets. So like the United Kingdom or the United States, places like that. So when you start to think of places that Xbox isn't very strong or isn't one of their traditional markets, the one that pops up to mind right away is Japan. And Phil's talked about in the past his desire to add some Japanese studios. So what does Xbox do after this Activision Blizzard deal gets finalized? Do they turn their gaze over to Japan and take a look at some of the independent studios there? Do they take a run at Sega or Capcom, Square Enix, or Bandai Namco? I don't really know, but it's interesting that Phil says he thinks they have enough here, or too many creators in places that are traditional markets. So look out in the future for Xbox to acquire studios someplace they're not as strong. It's all about those breadcrumbs, people. Finally, we've come to the last topic of this video, which has to deal with the exclusive part of the interview. So Spencer, who has pledged to make Call of Duty available for the rival Sony PlayStation at least for some period of time, said the idea of games made exclusively for one device is something we're just going to see less and less of. Maybe you happen in your household to buy an Xbox and I buy a PlayStation, and our kids want to play together and they can't because we bought the wrong piece of plastic to plug in our television. We really love to be able to bring more players in, reducing friction, making people feel safe, secure when they're playing, allowing them to find their friends, play with their friends regardless of what device. I think in the long run that is good for this industry. And maybe in the short run, there's some people in the companies that don't love it. But I think as we get over the hump and see where this industry can continue to grow, it proves out to be true. So what exactly is Phil talking about here? Is he talking about cross-play between consoles? Is he talking about a future 5 to 10 years from now where Halo, Forza, Sea of Thieves, and future Bethesda Activision games are all on PlayStation and Switch, so Xbox can make as much money as possible? Is he insinuating that PlayStation games will be on Xbox and that they're just going to be less exclusives overall as the future goes on? Maybe, because it's vague enough where you can get a sense that potentially that could be the future that Phil sees. But then again, when you actually go back and read some of the things here, he said that the idea of games made exclusively for one device is something we're just going to see less and less of. And I agree with Phil 100% in that statement that we're going to see less exclusives made for one device in the future. But that really shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. I mean, Xbox fans, we all know Xbox hasn't made an exclusive for their consoles since 2016, when Quantum Break made its way over to PC. That's when they started the Xbox Play Anywhere initiative. Every single game Xbox makes is on console, it's on PC, and you can stream it to iOS and Android. Hell, they even just released an app on Samsung smart TVs where you can play your games without a console. You do not need an Xbox console to play Xbox games. And I know PlayStation fans won't want to hear this, but this is starting to become true of the PlayStation ecosystem. Spider-Man just came to PC. God of War is there. Horizon Zero Dawn. There's rumors that Returnal and Ghost of Tsushima and Ratchet & Clank will come in the future. And if you think that God of War Ragnarok and Horizon Forbidden West and that Gran Turismo 7 isn't coming to PC, then I have a bridge to sell you. Everything Sony makes in the future, especially their live service games, are going to be on PC, and at some point they're going to be day and date on PC. And you know what that means? Not exclusive to one device like it was during the PS4 when God of War only came out on the PlayStation 4. It was exclusive to one device. So yes, Phil's 100% right here. There will be less exclusives made for a single device because these game companies want to make as much money as possible and think that putting their games everywhere is going to lead to that. So I think Phil is talking more about crossplay here rather than the idea of Xbox exclusives appearing on PlayStation. At least that's my read on it. I could be 100% wrong. Maybe Phil's looking 5 to 10 years down the road and sees a scenario where Xbox Game Pass is on PlayStation and the Switch, and you know what? You can just play Xbox games anywhere. Maybe that's the future that he wants to usher in. But right now I get the sense that he's really talking about crossplay because he's used this example in other interviews about the idea of two people buying a console, but one is an Xbox and one is a PlayStation that can't play together. But one thing does remain true. I really do believe there'll be less exclusives made for a single device. Not that there's going to be less exclusives in general, because PlayStation is going to continue to make what they make, except now it's going to be on PC. And everything Xbox makes from its eventual 30+ studios will be on the console, PC, and streaming. You'll be able to play it anywhere. There's going to be so many exclusives in the future, they just won't be locked to a single console anymore like it was in the past. Anyways, guys, that's the video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, share this out on social media, and hit that notification bell. Thank you guys so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one.